meeting of the McCandless Township Town Council to order. We're going to, you may stand if you are so inclined for the invocation by Councilman Mert, and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
When I was a child, my parents read a book to me that was written in 1964 by a man named Shel Silverstein. It was called The Giving Tree, and now seems like a better time than ever to remember the words. Once there was a tree, and she loved a little boy. Every day the boy would come, and he would gather her leaves and make them into crowns and play king of the forest. He would climb up her trunk and swing from her branches and eat her apples, and they would play hide and go seek. And when he was tired, he would sleep in her shade, and the boy loved the tree very much, and the tree was happy. But time went by, and the boy grew older, and the tree was often alone. Then one day the boy came to the tree, and the tree said, "Come, boy, come and climb up my trunk and swing from my branches and eat my apples and play in my shade and be happy." "I am too big to climb and play," said the boy. "I want to buy things and have fun. I want some money." "I'm sorry," said the tree, "but I have no money. I have only leaves and apples. Take my apples, boy, and sell them in the city. Then you will have money and you will be happy." And so the boy climbed the tree and gathered her apples and carried them away, and the tree was happy. But the boy stayed away for a long time, and the tree was sad. And then one day the boy came back, and the tree shook with joy. And she whispered, "Come, boy, climb my trunk and swing from my branches and be happy. I am too busy to climb trees." Said the boy, "I want a house to keep me warm, and I want a wife, I want children, so I need a house. Can you give me a house?" "I have no house," said the tree. "The forest is my house, but you may cut off my branches and build a house, and then you will be happy." And so the boy cut off her branches and carried them away and built his house, and the tree was happy. But the boy stayed away for a long time, and when he came back, the tree was so happy she could hardly speak. "Come, boy," she whispered, "come and play." "I am too old to play," said the boy. "I want a boat to take me far, far away. Can you give me a boat? Cut down my trunk and make a boat. Then you can sail away and be happy." And the boy cut down her trunk and made a boat and sailed away, and the tree was happy, but not really. After a long time, the boy came back. "I am sorry, boy," said the tree, "but I have nothing left to give you. My apples are gone. My teeth are too weak for apples," said the boy. "My branches are gone. You cannot swing on them." Ah. Uh-oh. "I am too old to swing on branches," said the boy. "My trunk is gone," said the tree. "You cannot climb." "I am too tired to climb," said the boy. "I am sorry," sighed the tree. "I wish I could give you something, but I have nothing left. I'm just an old stump, and I'm sorry." "I don't need much now," said the boy. "Just a quiet place to sit and rest, and I am very tired." "Well," said the tree, straightening herself up as much as she could, "well, an old stump is good for sitting and resting. Come, boy, come and sit down and rest." The boy did, and the tree was happy. Today there are more boys and fewer trees than there were in 1964. And too many boys did what the boy did. They took without giving back. He did not plant trees to replace what he used for future generations so those boys could climb and swing. He forgot he could not carve the casket from a stump or build a funeral pyre from rotten roots. It is our duty as citizens and as council to plant the seed so that the future generations are provided for the way we were once provided for. It is our obligation to leave the earth a better place than it was when we entered it.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Steve, for the invocation. What we're saying is we need another Johnny Appleseed.
Saying we need to quit taking without replenishing.
Announcements. The main announcement, you're at it first. This is the first big meeting in this room with the cameras on. So you are on, wave to the camera, and they can see you.
Wave.
Okay? Any other announcements? Hearing none, we'll move on to item number 5.
Mr. Chairman, move to approve the minutes of council's regular business meeting
of February 27th, 2017, as submitted to each member of council.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on the minutes? Or any question? Hearing none, I'll call for a question on the motion. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Minutes are adopted. Zoning Committee, Councilman McCandless.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the land development application for Allegheny County Memorial Park Cemetery for demolition of the existing maintenance building, construction of a 3,226 square foot addition onto the existing mausoleum to be used for maintenance equipment and grading of two areas toward the center of the property for future burial plots to be located at 1600 Duncan Avenue between the roadways of Thompson Run Road, Hazlitt Road, and Peebles Road as per job number 19411-0001, sheets 1-10, prepared by Gray Consulting, dated February 20th, 2017, with the latest revisions being March 23rd, 2017, with a waiver for installation of a perimeter sidewalk being granted based upon the following. A functional pedestrian access is already in place through the property as shown on the plans for the project. B, grades at various points along the property perimeter are not conducive to sidewalk installation. And C, the burden of cost of perimeter sidewalk does not correlate to the minor work proposed under this plan.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on this one?
I would simply point out, not in the way of discussion, but just that we've had, this was fully discussed at the planning commission meeting, and the representatives of the cemetery came in and gave an extensive discussion to council.
They're here right now.
And the zoning committee as well. And when, as council said, at zoning committee, it was discussed then as well.
It was in addition zoning committee, so it's been, I think it's been amply discussed, but anybody else want any comments from council about this item? Anybody from the in the audience wish to comment on the cemetery maintenance? Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. I wasn't able to attend the planning or zoning committee meeting. I apologize.
Name and address.
Name and address. My name is Deborah Sagan, and I live at Parkland Drive in Wexford, 15090. Once again, I did not attend the planning or zoning committee meeting. However, I do have a preference to have some sidewalks put in the town, especially when businesses are doing improvements. I think our town lacks accessibility with sidewalks, and there's a bus stop, and I'm not exactly sure where this work is being done, but I know there's a bus stop on Duncan Avenue. There's plenty of apartments there. It would encourage people to walk more. They do use the cemetery for walking, and but how do they get there? They have to walk on Duncan Avenue to get into the cemetery. So I would hope, I know this has already been discussed, but perhaps even with future projects, that council would pay more attention, or pay attention, be mindful of the advantages, safety-wise, health-wise, to having sidewalks with these businesses that are doing renovations. Thank you. Any questions for me?
Thanks for your comment. If I may take the liberty of responding to your,
absolutely.
Comment, to your thoughtful comment. We have, as a general proposition, I don't know whether it's memorialized precisely, but we have certainly we're pro sidewalks in the town.
Good.
And there was discussion on this very point, it occurred in concert with the discussion that we had at all of those meetings that we just mentioned, the economics of running a cemetery.
Right.
And the gentleman whose name I don't recall, but he was the manager of the cemetery, to put a sidewalk in, if we were going to do that, they'd have to abide by it, but it just completely destroys the economics of the cemetery. That's the reason. If they had oodles of money and could afford it, I think we would have said put it in. We gave them the waiver because he said, we just can't do it. We don't have enough money to do it.
Did he come up with figures when you say oodles? I mean, did he come up with figures? Because since I was at the last business meeting or whatever the last meeting was called, and we talked about this a little bit, so I did go back and do a bit of research on it. And cemeteries do keep in pepper or like a fund that people have to pay, families or whenever they buy the plots, for maintenance. And then I compared the price of sidewalks, and it wouldn't have to be, and maybe we should look at the ordinance or the zoning for sidewalks. It wouldn't have to be a concrete sidewalks. Many communities have asphalt pathways rather than a concrete sidewalk. So I don't have any facts or figures. I was surprised that it wasn't as expensive as I thought it would have been to install a sidewalk, and I don't have the figures with me. But I think that businesses need to be encouraged to plan for this in their when they do construction, that this is part of the expense, and it is for the community. But I understand, cemetery is not really a
Prohibitively expensive.
money making.
Is what he said, but that's.
Yeah, well, I understand where a businessman is coming from, any expense, but I didn't see that, and I'd like to see, facts and figures, and I don't have them either. But if we would look at it in the future, I think I would appreciate that. Because we've seen this more and more, the variances that are given, and especially about, I think we talked about this before, the grading. The grades at various points along the property perimeter, are not conducive to sidewalk installation. But we hear that a lot. But somehow they are able to grade when it is necessary. So I would like to see, even right along Babcock Boulevard. I see people walking all the time in front of Passavant Hospital on Babcock Boulevard, and that is so unsafe. And heaven forbid that somebody is injured by a traffic violation somewhere along where we don't have sidewalks. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
For your information, Debbie, the sidewalk ordinance was passed in 1975.
Okay, so
Our neighbor to the south just now passed one.
yeah, I just
Little
read
bit
that. I
behind.
read that. Was that in right south of us in Ross? Maybe was that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. I read that in the paper just recently. So I appreciate that, and I'd like to see it carry through as often as possible.
If I thought we could economically do it, I certainly would be for that.
Well, I'd like to see the actual facts and figures, and for my own information as well. And perhaps that was given at the Planning and Zoning Committee meeting. I'm not sure, since I wasn't there.
Mr. Chairman, not to prolong, but maybe
Yeah.
Mr. Betty could elucidate too on we talked about the money part, but the grades and what the grading might do to nearby. Is it possible it might be an impact on grave sites?
Yeah, a couple of things, and I appreciate your comment, and we always look at sidewalks under any condition. One thing to start with, this is a 3,200 square foot addition. It is 700 square foot over of what's required to even come to this meeting. So you're talking, and this is a 100-acre site. And the cost to put in a sidewalk around the perimeter of a 100-acre site would greatly, in multiples, be greater than the cost of putting on the small addition that they're talking about.
I understand.
So some of the benefits we're getting out of this is, one, we're getting an increased stormwater management, so that's a huge benefit, and especially in this watershed. The sidewalk would be adjacent to the creek, and that is one area where it would be difficult to put in the sidewalk. The second, there are places it could go in, and that would possibly be along Hazlitt.
Right. Right.
But that is one of the cut-throughs is from Duncan over to Hazlet. And that's one of the areas where they do have a great deal of walkability and accessibility through that area. The people that are going to go over there would not benefit from a sidewalk because they're coming from the other side. They'd be walking down the opposite side of Duncan Avenue. And to get there, they'd have to cross the street anyways at an unsafe intersection. They do that anyways for the bus stop. I understand that.
And maybe, that brings up a good point. If you're pausing there for a second as far as crosswalk, if it is an unsafe intersection, maybe a crosswalk could be considered.
Yeah, we've been down that road too, and I don't want to get into long discussions about crosswalks, but we've had PennDOT and various safety engineers talk about mid-block crosswalks. They're not a good idea.
Okay.
So, and the third thing is the proximity. When they expanded Peebles Road, they expanded it right up to the property line, and they're putting in a sidewalk along Peebles may encroach on grave sites. So that was a place that we certainly didn't want to put sidewalks in. And we wanted to be respectful, and the developer or the operator wanted to be respectful of the grave sites.
I see.
And that happened many, many years ago. So those are the reasons we didn't, especially because they do allow access and walk and accessibility through the cemetery. They do permit that. And in fact, I believe they said that they have, throughout their cemetery, they have about $5,000 worth of lawsuits a month from people who walk through cemeteries, and they own quite a few cemeteries.
Mm-hmm.
So, but anyways, your concept is a good one, your ideas are good, and we do consider sidewalks under every circumstance. It's just that this one is impractical.
Well, even if they would consider a portion or, and I appreciate that you know a whole lot more about the engineering than I do. So I appreciate your response. But if there is a possibility of even a portion of that would be feasible and, for safety features, I would appreciate any consideration. So thank you. And not to
Understand.
prolong the discussion, but I think it is a safety and liability issue for the town. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Sagan, and thank you, Mr. Betty. Mr. Chairman, I have nothing further to discuss on the,
I think Rita had a
was there another question out there? I'm sorry. Did somebody else have their hand up to make a comment? I do see a hand. Would you please come forward?
I just mentioned the crosswalks, so that's all.
I couldn't hear what you were saying, but if you're satisfied that you've been recognized, it's fine with me. Did you want to say anything else? I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
I can't hear you.
I think you can hear me. If you can't,
No, I cannot.
can't you really? This thing must be on here. How's that?
Much better, thank you.
Mr.
Okay.
Chairman, there's nothing further to report on the zoning committee.
Then we're ready for the question on the motion. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Any further business, Councilman McKim?
No, sir.
Then we'll move on to the Finance and Personnel Committee, Councilwoman Pyers.
Mr. Chairman, I move to ratify check listing number 3 dated February 7th, 2017 through March 16th, 2017, totaling $861,059.36 as submitted to each member of council and as posted on the town's website and bulletin board.
Second.
I would like to mention that council has reviewed the check listing at the committee meeting.
Any questions on council? Any comments by anybody on the audience? Hearing none, we're ready for the question on the motion. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilwoman Pyers. Public Safety Committee, Councilman Ladon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Move to adopt ordinance number 1463, an ordinance authorizing the town manager and chief of police to sign a mutual police cooperative agreement for mutual police aid and assistance which allows the town of McCandless to join with the municipalities of Bradford Woods, Etna, Indiana, Marshall, O'Hara, Pine, Richland, Ross, Shaler, West Deer, and Westview to participate in and coordinate DUI enforcement and prosecution activities.
Second.
Been made and seconded. Is there any discussion from anyone on council?
And we discussed this at a previous work session and decided it was a proper move for the town to enhance the safety of our highways.
Any comments from anyone in the audience? Hearing none, we'll call for a question on the motion. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. No further business.
I have no further business, Mr. Chairman.
Public Works Committee, Vice Chairman Mertz.
Mr. Chairman, I move to award a contract to Park Edge Contracting, the second lowest responsible bidder for the rental of a .75 yard or larger excavating machine with operator and high lift with 1.5 cubic yard bucket or larger with operator, each at the rate of $85 an hour. The lowest bidder withdrew.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second?
Any discussion on that motion? Any comments from anyone in the audience? Hearing none, we'll call for a question on the motion. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item number 2.
Mr. Chairman, I move to award a contract to Kishmo, Inc., the lowest responsible bidder for replacement of the original concrete floor in the Town Public Works Building at a price of $84,980.
Second?
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on that motion? Any question, any comment from anyone in the audience? Hearing none, we'll call for a question on the motion. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item number 3.
Mr. Chairman, I move to award a contract to El Grande Industries, Inc., the lowest responsible bidder for reconstruction and repaving of certain town roads under the 2017 paving program at a total bid price of $1,919,136.93.
Second?
Moved and seconded. Any comment, questions from anyone on council? Any comments from anyone in the audience? Hearing none, we'll call for a question on the motion. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item number 4.
Mr. Chairman, I move to award a contract to Allegheny Mineral Corporation for various sizes of construction limestone material, riprap stone material, grate, pipe, and concrete boxes under the Pennsylvania CoStar's pricing system. Contract number 4600015610.
Second?
Any discussion on that item? Any comment from anyone in the audience? Hearing none, we'll call for a question and a motion. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Recreation Committee, Councilwoman Zachary.
Mr. Chairman, I move to adopt resolution number 5 of the 2017 series, a concurring resolution required by Allegheny County Redevelopment Authority to affirm a community infrastructure and tourism grant request for proposal improvements to reconfigure several of the ball fields at Vincentia Recreational Complex by lengthening fields 1 and 5 to provide for safer and age-appropriate levels of play for girls softball and older boys baseball, to fund $250,000 of the $291,795 estimated cost, with the balance to be funded by a $19,000 commitment of town funds already budgeted toward work at Vincentia Complex, and $22,795 from the McCandless Athletic Association.
I second.
Been moved and second. Any discussion on that motion? Any comments from anyone in the audience? Hearing none, we'll call for a question on that motion. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Any further business, Councilman?
No, none, thank you.
No further business. We move on to item number 7, new business.
Mr. Chairman, I move to adopt resolution number 6 of the 2017 series, a resolution approving the core documents prepared for the McCandless Northern Allegheny Heritage Center. These documents follow the American Alliance of the Museum Standards and Best Practices, guide the operation of the Heritage Center, and consist of its mission statement, institutional code of ethics, and town council's role of governance, strategic plan and collections management, and emergency management policies.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion on that item? Any comments from anyone in the audience?
Hello, my name is Cindy Walterman. I live on 376 Wagon Wheel Trail in Wexford. I have a lot of questions. Can you please provide me the amount of taxpayer dollars that were used to fund this, used to fund the History Museum? The annual total cost, not the annual, the complete total cost of what this museum has cost taxpayers.
Mr. Cordy, will you read that amount?
Okay, the first question was the total amount spent?
The total amount spent,
Okay, over at
including
3
personnel.
We have a handout. Did you get it?
I did.
Okay. And the handout shows that the total expenses were $596,628.88.
So let me ask you, with that said,
Let me answer the question, please.
okay,
Which includes $298,281.44 for personnel costs, benefits, and salaries.
so let me ask you something because I watched your video. What about the $180,000 of labor that was donated and the excavation and any kind of donations? Were they included in that total?
Those are in addition to this.
Those are in addition to it. So we're looking at about $1 million,
No,
somewhere around there.
no, 596,000.
In
plus-
addition to $180,000.
Right, that would be about 770,000.
Okay, and then what did the excavation cost
That was donated.
that was donated?
That was donated. It
So
didn't-
what I'm asking
That
you,
was included in the.
what I'm
100
ask
Excuse
is,
me,
are
let me
the,
finish answering the question, if I may. That was
my
included-
question is,
I'm answering your question, ma'am.
okay,
$180,000 is an estimate.
was that included?
That I have, that was included in that. Mhm.
Okay, and the excavation was also included?
In the $180,000.
Okay, what about
estimated
the donations that you spoke about in your agenda meeting?
Now donations.
There was a $10,000 donation, there were bricks that were sold?
No, the actual donated amounts are shown on this spreadsheet. And if I can explain also that the.
Sure, please
this
do.
This information has been included in the town's budget, which has been posted on our website since October of last year, and then updated with the adopted budget. So this spreadsheet is based on that information, and the amount donated in cash thus far is $62,377.51, which
Okay.
counts toward against the amount that we spent
Against
in
the
total.
amount.
So the net cost is $534,251.
Okay,
And the actual out-of-pocket cost, when you subtract out the in-kind labor that we put
Okay.
forward from town employees, the actual out-of-pocket costs are $236,347.
were those people who donated, did they receive any kind of tax deduction?
Well, those who are individuals could do that.
How?
We are eligible, governments are permitted to be taken as, a donation to a government is permitted to be taken as a tax deduction under
Okay.
IRS rules.
Okay, great. Do you have a list of line item deductions for the cost to the History Museum?
not sure I understand.
Line item expenditures. Do you have a list of line item expenditures?
Sure, this is.
What check was written to whom and when?
Well, this is a summary here.
It's a
We-
summary,
yeah, we
but
do
I
have-
want a line item
Sure, we do. We
expenditure.
have that for every expenditure.
Okay, thank you. My second question is, you blew off Councilwoman Zachary's request to form a foundation. I'm not sure why you would do that, because foundation status would allow you to attract more donors, because they can deduct whatever they had donated. What's the rationale behind that?
Well, first of all, again, anyone who donates to a local government can take that as a tax deduction. But I think it was a policy.
A local government, and you don't have to be a nonprofit or a foundation or anything
I
like
don't
that?
know about that. I'm talking about an individual who's making a donation.
Okay,
Now, the council made a policy decision that they would serve as the board of directors, and it's also included in the core documents that
Okay.
there be a fundraising committee appointed at some point.
but, you know, from what I saw in the agenda review meeting, you were giving Councilwoman Zachary, you were telling her that, you didn't want to do that for quite some time. I was just trying to figure out what's the rationale behind that.
My recommendation as town manager is that we continue with the process of setting up the museum and our Heritage Center, and then we can proceed with fundraising activity. My suggestion also was that the actual operating costs on an ongoing basis are fairly small from what we're predicting.
Small, really
Yes?
interesting.
Yeah, let me respond to that.
Okay,
As a practical matter, when you have a municipality, people can deduct the contributions to the municipality. And they can take a tax deduction for that. So there's really no reason to create a separate foundation, because that involves expense, you need a body to run it. And that would make sense if you get a group of citizens
right.
and they say at some point, well, we really want to raise a lot of money and put a new roof on or do something else. And that certainly could be done in the future. But the town wouldn't be the one that would run a foundation typically. It would be a separate body.
But you're saying that if I wanted to write a $10,000 check, I can deduct it
You can deduct it right
from
now.
my taxes?
Yep.
Okay, I did not know that. I
And
apologize.
if I may add, please?
Sure.
We didn't reject the idea of having a fundraiser committee. Our idea was that we should open the museum and allow people to see exactly what it is and how it's running.
Yes, but Councilwoman Zachary wanted it immediately, and you guys wanted to delay it, and I was just trying to find the rationale behind that.
Well,
Okay?
if I may
Thanks.
finish what my thought was on it?
Sure.
Once people see what the museum is, then they might more readily be willing to donate. But if you're saying it before it's open, they don't know anything.
People have
about it.
already donated. They've donated bricks. They've donated, I don't know, somebody said something about a $10,000 check. So I was just trying to figure out what the rationale was behind that.
Well, that
But
was our
you've
reason.
explained it. Thank you. Moving on, I would like to know, how were the items for the center acquired? I know Joe Bullock donated a lot. Was he compensated in any way?
Answer.
No.
He was not compensated in
No,
any
it's a
way
donation.
for any of his personal things that, okay, that's great. Good for Mr. Bullock. I wanted to ask you too about, in 2014, Mr. Betty said the estimated cost of the museum was around $100,000, and obviously we're at $500,000. How did that happen?
I don't know whether Mr. Betty said that or not.
Well, I
Did
can
you say that, Mr.
absolutely
Petty?
get you the material that says that. He said that it was going to cost about $100,000 to build, and now we're at 4 times that amount. I would just like to know.
To my knowledge,
How that
Mr.
happened.
Biddy had virtually no exposure or relationship to the creation of a heritage center other than issue a building permit. I don't think he would, he might be able to guesstimate as to how much it would cost to build, but
Okay.
I think that's incorrect, ma'am.
Well, I beg to differ, and I'll get you the information on that. Now, my question on the core documents is, is there not a line item or something in there that says that the public cannot be privy to documents in the core documents? I mean, as far as the History Museum is concerned. Councilwoman Zachary, can you please point me to the, thank you. Oh, here we have it. Land Use Administrator, this was on July 1st, 2014. Land Use Administrator Betty said the town would like to develop a museum. Mr. Betty said that they are looking at August for a full-site presentation, and the cost of the museum will be $100,000. Councilman Oliver and council will take it out of the capital budget. Would you care to respond?
Guess you really, I don't recall you offering that, Mr. Betty, but
These are in the minutes. Would you like to see them?
I don't need to see you.
Yeah, of
I
course
heard what
not.
you read.
Of course not, because
Why not? You read them. I'm assuming you read them from our minutes.
yeah, they're right here. Would you like to see them? No, of course you wouldn't. So in the core documents, is there any kind of caveat where there's a refusal to disclose public information to the public?
Could you point that out, perhaps?
Kim?
I don't have my copy with me. I'm sorry, I don't have that full document.
In
with
those
me.
core documents, there is a statement that says that the documents will be privy to council only and not to the public. Is
Somebody
that correct?
point that out. I should point that out.
I'll be happy to bring it back to you at a later time. But given that you're voting on it tonight, I think it's an important caveat.
Sorry, I don't have this with me.
Okay. When can I expect line item expenditures from this council? I would like to see it, and if I have to, I will file a right to know act. Line item expenditures, checks you wrote
Every day, every year?
for the entire History Museum. Yes, I would like to see that. That is my right as a taxpayer. And frankly, if you don't have it, I'm kind of concerned about this council. Why do you not have it? How do you not have a line item expenditure?
Have it.
Reed, do you have that?
Of course we do. We do accounting. Yeah,
Great.
we pay
Good.
bills. We
I'm
have
glad.
line item detail, yeah.
Okay. Can I get a copy of that, please?
Council asking me to give Mrs. Walterman a copy?
You have to file a right to know request. That's a significant amount.
Oh, here we go with the 10-day request.
Uh,
It's my right as a
5 days.
taxpayer.
We have to respond within 5 days.
Fine, but it's my right as a taxpayer to know where you are spending this money.
Sure, so just file the
This is
request and you'll have
absolutely
it.
ridiculous. You guys said it was going to cost $100,000.
No, we didn't. Why not?
Bullshit. It's right here.
Excuse me.
It's in your meeting.
Mr. Chairman,
It's
no,
in your
we
meeting
don't need
minutes.
Need
that
that
kind
kind
of
of
language.
language.
Okay, bull crap. It's in your meeting minutes. It's right here. You said it was going to cost $100,000. It's
No,
cost
if you-
5 times
if you
that
wanna say
amount.
Maybe Mr. Betty said that, maybe somebody didn't hear it correctly, but that's what's recorded in the
maybe
minutes.
somebody
then-
didn't hear
then
it
let
correct-
the
inc-
minutes- The minutes will stand.
That's hilarious.
But that isn't what, that was a very preliminary time back in August until this
Mm-hmm. And
actually
so
was
you
vetted
were
out.
off by what, like
Nobody was off.
500%?
It wasn't-
Really?
Nobody was off. The entire group of engineers.
You go
Public
from
Works-
100,000
Let me
to
finish.
500,000.
If you'd like
and
an answer to your question, I'll give you an answer. I'll make a comment.
You're
to-
not
to
making
try to
an answer
loosen-
to my question. You're giving
Okay.
me a runaround.
Okay.
Okay? So we went from 100,000 to 500,000. Actually, beyond 500,000. I don't understand how you people, Ms. Powers, you're on the Finance Committee. Please respond. No, don't comment. I heard that.
No,
I
it's
can
not what
read
said.
lips.
It's not what I said.
Yeah, it's exactly what you said.
I said you don't have to
Don't
comment,
respond.
you don't- if she doesn't know
You
the
said don't
answer.
respond.
I said if you don't know the answer. You didn't hear everything. You know what? This is a time for the citizen to make a comment,
comment,
And then she-
not an inquisition.
Oh, it's my right to ask these questions.
You can ask the
It's my right.
I think it's
And I ask questions, and they haven't been answered.
5 minutes expired.
Oh, my 5 minutes. Who called that? Me? I knew you would do that.
Time's up. Is there anyone else in the audience with a comment? Rita?
Respectfully, my name is Rita Martin. I live on Grubbs Road, and I don't have any questions, but I do have something I'd like to say. I have great concerns about how the Northern Allegheny Heritage Center was established, and I wish to ask you all sincerely to not include the core documents in your agenda on tonight without until a proper funding source is established and the contributions obtained thus far are accounted for properly. Mr. McKim, Mr. Ladon, Mr. Offman, each of you were part of the decision to build this museum. You, together with Mrs. Powers, were also the 4 representatives so well prepared to give back a minuscule amount of tax dollars to all of us, and we appreciate that. But you were also the 4 who were very reticent about letting the taxpayers of McCandless know that you spent over $500,000 of their money to build this one-room schoolhouse museum. I believe that building museums and libraries and community centers is very important, and that this museum was needed. Mr. Bullock needed to have a place to put all these wonderful things. But I also believe that you were irresponsible in your handling of this project because, 1, you had no defined funding source except our general budget, which became a slush fund every time you needed more money. 2, you still don't have a good plan in place for maintenance, upkeep, and programming, even though it's in there. There's no one on this board who is good at maintaining a museum. Who will be the director of this museum? I appreciate Mr. Kordick. He's pretty smart, but I don't think he knows how to maintain a museum. You had no foresight. Whereas the Heritage Center could have included a McCandless Community Center for meetings, programs, and incorporated use and cost, both financial and administrative, nobody thought about that. You have incorporated donations into the municipal budget, which, according to my source, may be illegal without an ordinance to do so. I talked to somebody about that. I don't know if it's true. You have no outreach. What Joe Bullock and Amy Steele said about it being a regional asset is so true. And none of you, as far as I'm aware, reached out to Marshall, Pine, Franklin Park, Bradford Woods, and Ross to have them pitch in. Let me add that each of those communities has a community center that is used and appreciated by all of its citizens. Mrs. Powers, you are good at finding tax money to give us back. Let me ask you to be even more fiscally responsible and stand up with council members Kim Zachary and Steve Mertz, who clearly asked that a funding stream other than taxpayer dollars be established for the museum. I think the council showed an irresponsible dereliction of duty to the taxpayers of McCandless in planning, funding, and implementation of the project, a labor of love hoisted onto our township budget without proper documentation and strapped to the backs of all future council members as specified on pages 2 and 3. This is not proper, it's unconscionable. Therefore, I urge you to postpone this vote, which puts the burden of this building squarely on the taxpayers and into our operating budget. A separate document should be drafted that provides for its funding, either by creating a fundraising committee or a foundation, 501c3, which can accept contributions properly. And yes, it requires a little bit of money, but it's the right thing to do. That's what you do. And you do start fundraising. The library fundraised before it built its $1 million addition. You fundraise prior and you get it done. And I know you were under the gun because you needed to find a place to put Joe's things, and that was important. But I think you didn't do it correctly, and it was at our expense. So thank you for the time. That was just my contribution to this.
Any other comment? Mark? Mark, you're up first.
Good evening, Mr. President. Good evening, council members. I would like to ask a question about, has anybody approached anybody about on Blazer Drive, the Traderhorn property yet? Or is it still up for sale? Is it still up for sale?
As far as I know, it is. Mr. Betty, do you know anything about that?
I had a conversation with Mr. Sweeney, probably 2 weeks ago, and he indicated that it is still up for sale, yes. Yes.
I have one more question. On the last election cycle, I worked the polls outside. We had a lot of people going through. And I talked to a lot of younger people in our city here, our town here. And I asked them different questions. And they would like to see maybe a civic center or a center where they can bring their kids in. And I asked them a couple environmental questions, what they're really interested in. Cleaner water and clean air. And all the people I did talk to, they really love living here. We have a beautiful town here, so maybe someday we can maybe acquire this property over here and do something positive with it. Thank you very much.
Okay, Mark. Any other comments?
Barbara Richards, Manor Court. I think I left a message or spoke to all of you today on the phone, but I'd like to read my short statement of what that was about. I am asking as a resident of McCandless that you not approve the core documents for the museum as written. The document states the town council is putting forth a code of ethics that, quote, is a public trust contract, end quote. It is supposed to, quote, promote transparency and accountability both internally and externally, end quote. From its inception, this project has promoted neither. Until the public can have a detailed financial and procedural review from the town administration, I hope that you will not let these documents be approved as they stand. Thank you.
Any other comments?
Hi, I'm Debbie Sagan. I just had a question. Last week at the agenda review meeting, it was mentioned that there was liability insurance. I think, Mr. Reese, you said that there was, but I didn't hear.
No, it wasn't liability
Okay.
insurance. It was whether the artifacts were insured if there was a fire in the building, and
Okay.
they have liability insurance.
On the
already.
artifacts.
Yeah.
What about, what is it, liability for somebody being hurt on the property or, protection as far as that goes? Is there any concern on council with any liability, safety issues? Why am I always at that?
Yeah, we have liability insurance.
And what does that run approximately, cost-wise? Does anybody have any idea on that?
I mean, it would be under our blanket policy.
It's under our blanket policy.
Yeah, it's,
Would it add to the cost of the blanket policy? I know I have an umbrella policy,
yeah, I don't know the answer
something
to
like
that.
that. It would, if there would be an additional cost, we're not sure.
I mean, I don't know the answer to that.
I know, yeah, that's why I'm looking maybe at, I don't know whose responsibility that would be on council or our town manager, or,
The way insurance is
maybe.
negotiated, it's usually negotiated every year, and it's based on a number of factors. That would probably be one of them, and,
So it would probably have negotiated, been negotiated for the 2017.
Now, our insurance year runs from April 1 through March 31st.
Oh, okay. All right, that was my concern and question as far as increased liability for the town taking on the museum, as something that the town should consider. All right, thank you.
Any other comments?
Hi, I'm Dave Martin. I live up on Grubbs Road. I too would like to ask the council to postpone their vote on this item. I think that you need to do a lot more in regard to the funding, especially the funding, as well as the other items that were just brought up in regard to the business, well, not the business model, but the way it's going to be financed and run in the future. It seems as if there's a complete dilemma regarding the funding of the History Center in this township. It appears as though no business model was ever developed to address all the possibilities of potential major problems that can and will occur in any project. You can say that you were blindsided by the withdrawal of construction support, the added costs, and cost overruns. I propose the previous old council was totally responsible for approving the plan without insight, oversight, or any sight at all. Now we need to address the cash shortfall for spending that, as far as I know, has not been approved by the council seated before me. This is obviously an area of expertise for the undocumented CPA, since she found enough miscellaneous monies in less than 72 hours to suggest the residents of McCandless Township receive a one-time minuscule property rebate for the year 2017. This is obviously an area of expertise that has not been shown. Just imagine the possibilities of her having an entire month to delve deeply into the books again. It just boggles the mind. Speaking of the schoolhouse design, was there ever any alternate building design for the History Center? You can say yes or no. It's a question.
What's the question? What do you mean by ultimate design?
Well, the design that was approved was a schoolhouse. Was there ever any other design for a building to house the History Center other than that schoolhouse?
No.
Thank you. Since there's no need for me to ask what the cost differences would be between a schoolhouse with a bell tower and a regular roofed building. But I think that common sense says that a plain roof would be significantly less expensive than having a schoolhouse belfry. In conclusion, I can say that in my business life, I was directly responsible for at least 25 major projects whose costs were in the tens of millions of dollars each, and that's the low end. In addition, and maybe more importantly, my company's reputation would have suffered if any of my projects ever failed. Personally, I put my career on the line with every project that I was responsible for. I do not see the same thing with what's going on with the old council. As far as I'm concerned, the schoolhouse project was simply business as usual and mismanaged without fear of reprisal from anyone. With tongue in cheek, I say to you all, old people from the council, good job. Good job to the old guard. Thank you for your time.
My name is Kay Walmsley, 1453 Montgomery Road. And I have to say that I am appalled at the snide comments that are being made tonight. I think it's completely unnecessary. If people have a point to make, let them make their point. But to impugn any one of our council people, I think is wrong. I commend the town for having proposed and built ball fields and other recreational facilities in this town, and a museum, and a salt building, whatever. This town has been run in a very exemplary fashion. The fact that we have no debt, the fact that we pay as we go, I think attests to the fiscal responsibility that this council has exhibited over the years. And I hope that all of you continue to do that. Thank you.
Ken Spear, Grubbs Road. I don't have any snide comments, all right, but I don't have any unnecessary platitudes either, all right. I really just have a few questions. I'm kind of coming to this and listening to what everyone's talking about, and kind of coming to this from my former profession as a business consultant. Was there a business plan that was ever put together initially for this history center?
You had an architect design it.
No. Mr. Hoffman, I understand, sir. I mean, with the architectural plan. I'm talking about a business plan. For instance, some of the people have brought up comments about utilizing, some of the other surrounding communities. Like, for example, I've got friends at Ross that run the History Center and run the photo, History Center over there. Was there any thought given to that type of thing laid out in a plan? That's what I'm talking about. Not an actual architectural plan, which I understand you had to have for the building. But I'm talking about a plan for how the center was going to be used, how it was going to be coordinated into the community, additional uses for the center, et cetera, et cetera. You folks know what I'm talking about. Mr. Kordick, probably you're the one to ask for that. Or Mr. Hoffman. Okay. And please understand, this isn't a criticism. It's just a question.
Sure.
Okay.
The situation that was presented to the town has been covered at many meetings.
Right.
But to say it in summary, the man who collected most of what's in the History Center was losing his space at the McKnight Elementary School.
Right.
A security review was conducted. It was felt to be inappropriate for folks other than those needing to be in the McKnight Elementary School for school business to be there. So there was no specific time frame, but it was please remove yourself and your things as soon as you can. So we talked with the school district, we talked with Mr. Bullock, and I brought the matter to the attention of the town council. And Joe came to the meeting and explained to the town council that his collection would have to dissipate and if he didn't have a place to keep it. So then Council President Bob Powers appointed a small committee of Mr. McKim, Mr. Hoffman, and myself to look around the community to see if there was a place that we could put a structure that would house the contents. Talked to our architect of record, RSSC, Ross Chandra Sturzinger Kupchak, to look at the contents, look at the space that the contents were pretty much jammed into. He did that, measured up, and we did research, and the idea was quickly came to mind by everyone at the council table, including myself, that we had some nice one-room schoolhouses that operated back in the early 1900s in Peebles and Ingomar, two that I know of off the top of my head. I know there was one on Sloop Road as well, just off Sloop on Whitmer Road. And so the size of the collection, with the advice of the architect, immediately dovetailed into that size building with storage space down in the basement so that the upstairs could be used for the collection, or a good part of it, so that the collection could be rotated so that would continue to maintain interest. And while that was being developed, we projected costs. $100,000 might have been an off-the-cuff remark at some point, but the actual expenditure would probably be in the neighborhood of $500,000, $600,000 or more, especially if publicly bid. So we got a commitment from the Beatty Technical School Board through the good offices of Dr. Ray Galtieri, who was then the school superintendent, North Allegheny School Superintendent, who made a motion to have the Beatty Tech students help build the structure. Good opportunity for them to learn.
Right, I remember that.
And mingle with adults, be supervised by adults, work side by side with them. And so our Public Works Department contains amazingly talented people. And we put together really within the parameters that we had a good feel for what it would cost with their capabilities and with the young people from Beatty Tech. And then amazingly, one contractor, Gary Herbert, came forward and offered to donate either $10,000 in cash or an equivalent amount of labor. And he had Joe with him, and we said, okay, we'll take the labor. And that just snowballed. I've likened this to almost to an Amish museum building, if you will, because the Amish barn erection is pretty commonly known. And the business plan in terms of budgeting and having a pretty good idea of what our people would be able to do internally and their capabilities evolved from all that and was an ongoing process. And it's been planned and certainly so far coming to fruition to have volunteers to staff the museum. The budget for this year, the operating budget, was still a pretty good guess as to how much maintenance costs would be and so forth, but it's $27,700. We're already seeing that in one area, the cleaning of the building will be less than we expected.
Mr. Corder, I'll tell you what, if I...
But they said that, it just sort of...
And I,
proceeded
look,
that way.
no, I appreciate it. And then I'm not interrupting you, but really what I'm saying is you're answering my question. What you're saying to me, okay, is a very responsible history, okay? All right? And I appreciate that. What I think you're showing me, though, okay, the answer to my question is yes, there's some budgetary planning. Certainly there's architectural planning, all right? Building planning, all right? What you folks have done and what over the years my experience has been with a lot of towns, okay, that I've consulted to, okay, in terms of business consulting, you respond, okay, all right? I don't get the sense that there was any comprehensive plan ever laid out there, okay?
It was a reactionary one, no doubt.
Exactly, okay?
And how else
Not,
could it have been?
not as much a criticism as just a statement of fact,
Sure.
okay? Hand in hand with that, okay, the question was raised by someone. I've lost count, okay, because I said I came here tonight for other reasons, all right? But someone made a comment about what the ongoing cost would be, okay, for maintenance, for insurance, et cetera, okay? And the comment I think was made was the cost was minuscule. I know that's not an exact quote, okay? But point of it is, do you really know, okay? Do you really know what all those costs would be?
Yes.
And you do?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So do you know on an annual
Pretty good idea
basis?
Right now, it's $27,000.
That's the number you were talking about, so $27,000 ongoing on a year.
And we use
Okay.
materials that,
All right.
like hardy plank siding, that has an extremely long life.
No,
And roofing materials,
good,
so forth. So
all good stuff,
low
all right?
maintenance costs.
All good stuff. Here's my comment to you folks, all right? I believe there's things to take a look at, all right? I really do. I think there are some things to look at in terms of ongoing funding for this. $27,000 is minuscule over an overall budget, but it's still $27,000. Hey, I'd love to have $27,000. All right, I think most people would. Little things like this are what add up. All right. So, what I'm asking council, what I'm suggesting, all right, is perhaps when you're looking at this vote tonight, maybe it would be time to take a step back and just say, is it appropriate to put forward a plan, to look at a plan, to pull a foundation together, to get some funding sources together, just to look at this in a more complete plan, all right? And to have a business plan put together before you go any further. This is a great concept, all right? This is a great thing, all right?
Can I ask you a
But
question? Did you read the core documents?
no, not going to lie to you and say I did. No, I'm coming here to.
Find a lot of that
I'm
information.
responding more to kind of what was said tonight. All right. So, no, I haven't seen that. But that's my comment to you. All right. That it may be very appropriate to just look at this and take a step back before you just continue on. That's all I got to say.
If you look at the core document, there is a provision in there to appoint a fundraising committee. It's in there.
Then why did I get a sense tonight that there was a question about setting up a fundraising?
There is no date given.
There's no
That's
date
what's
in there,
being
but
objected
it's
to.
up to the council
All right.
to appoint a fundraising committee.
All right.
Now, if we sit down and appoint a fundraising committee and decide that maybe we'll go the foundation route, there's other ramifications with that,
Without a question.
and expenses.
Right. On the other hand, my question to you, okay, my comment to you, all right, is maybe that is something to take a look at before you take a step forward on this, all right?
Well, we could study that. This document simply sets up the whole operating procedure. It's an SOP of the operation.
All right.
We have a bunch of volunteers. We're going there. We hope to open this museum by the 20th of April. May. And we have to have something in place. This document does that. Now the people know what they're doing and what they're supposed to be doing and how everything's supposed to work, even down to the emergency plan.
I understand, Mr. Hoffman. I'm just
So it's
saying.
all in there.
And it's just, recommendation is, I would take a step back and take a look. And I go back again with the whole business plan overall, that you really don't have. That's it. Thank you.
Any other comments?
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, I actually have a comment. I've listened to a lot of the good points that have been made tonight, and I think these documents are a very good first draft. I don't really see a reason to rush this process of this very important institution that we've, really invested in. It seems like another month really wouldn't make that much difference. So, having said that, I'd like to make a motion, actually, to send this back to committee for reevaluation.
It's been moved and second to send it back to a committee for reevaluation. All those in favor, is there any discussion?
There's no discussion.
Wasn't there an already motion on the floor?
She's made a motion to table.
She's making a motion.
Actually, no,
to
she
table.
hasn't. She has not made a motion to table. She made a
She
motion
made
to
a
put it back
motion
into
to put it
committee.
back in committee.
Just so we can look over it again and see if maybe some of these things could be addressed.
There's a motion on the table.
There is a motion on the table to accept it, is that right?
Right.
So we have to vote on that motion to accept it first.
No, that's not true. According to Roberts, if you make a motion to send something back to committee, that has to be voted on before the motion. Because if you accept the motion, then you can't send it
Mr.
back to
Rees?
I
committee then.
don't know the answer to that. Under Roberts.
You,
It's right.
well, I know a motion to table takes precedent, but making a motion to send it back to committee. And there was a second to that motion?
Mr. Mertz seconded that motion. If
All right.
it's a valid motion.
We can vote on that
It
motion.
can't hurt to vote on it.
Okay.
All those in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye. This is a motion to send it back to the committee.
Aye.
Aye. Did you call for a vote?
I
Yeah.
called for a vote.
Okay. Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Roll call is Ward 1,
Aye.
Ward 2,
Nay.
Ward 3,
Aye.
Ward 4,
Nay.
Ward 5,
Nay.
Ward 6,
Nay.
Ward 7.
Nay.
Mr. Chairman, the vote was 2 in favor, 5 against. The motion fails.
Now we go back to the original motion to approve this, to approve it. All those in favor of approval indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Roll call vote.
Ward 1,
Nay.
Ward 2,
Aye.
Ward 3,
Nay.
Ward 4,
Aye.
Ward 5,
Aye.
Ward 6,
Aye.
Ward 7.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, the vote was 5 in favor, 2 against. Motion passes.
That means that the minute, the plan is adopted. Moving on to 7B. Councilwoman Zachary.
Move to approve the Environmental Advisory Committee project proposal number EAC 2017-02, a request to enhance the presentation of and categorize the town's green space inventory and create a green space map layer on the town's geographic information system, the GIS.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any questions by anyone on council? We reviewed this in committee. Any comments from anyone in the audience? Hearing none, we'll call for a question on the motion. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 8, public comment. Is there any further public comment? Hearing none, we'll move to item number 9.
Mr. Chairman, I move to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Moved and second to adjourn. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting adjourned.